So Tom Cruise lights the fuse on turning a television classic into a major blockbuster franchise with help some celebrated screenwriters and master of suspense Brian De Palma for Mission Impossible. After finishing a mission in Kiev extracting information through an elaborate ruse, the Impossible Mission Force led by veteran Jim Phelps is tasked with a new operation in Prague. They must intercept the theft of the CIA knock list, which could be used to expose deep cover operatives. Phelps is aided by point man Ethan Hunt, surveillance operative Hannah Williams, security systems specialist Jack Harmon, undercover infiltration expert Sarah Davies, and Phelps' own wife Claire, a getaway transportation expert. However, things go horribly awry when someone hacks in and kills off the team one by one, until Hunt is the only one left alive. Calling in IMF Director Eugene Kittredge, Hunt is quickly blamed as being a mole, which his entire operation was set up to pinpoint. Using the explosive, Hunt acts quickly and escapes back to the team's safe house. Their inspiration recontextualizes Kittredge's words about a Job 314 linked to arms dealer Max, as referring to Job 314 in the Bible. Hunt then reaches out online to contact Max with this alias, and arrange a meeting to find out who is responsible for sabotaging the IMF. Surprisingly, Claire survives to rejoin Ethan, who distrusts her at first, but soon they work together to expose the true traitor. Ultimately, Ethan meets with Max, who reveals herself to be more than he imagined, but negotiates on the basis that the knock list that was brought to her is a fake. He furthermore helps her evade a team of agents led by Kittredge, who's intent on bringing Hunt in. After this, Ethan knows that the only way to flush the real Job out of hiding is to steal the real knock list from inside CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. For this, Ethan and Claire recruit disavowed agents and hacker Luther Stickle and skilled pilot Franz Krieger under the guise of profit for hire. However, the list is only accessible from a highly monitored room with temperature and floor pressure sensors, making for a harrowing and dangerous infiltration. Once they complete the daring heist, Hunt deceives the shady Krieger, but trusts in Luther's sense of morality with the one copy of the list. Meanwhile, Kittredge puts on pressure to lure Ethan out by framing his mother and uncle in a drug ring operation, broadcast on the international news. Yet when contacting Kittredge to lure him to London ahead of the meet with Max, Jim Phelps resurfaces alive but injured, feeding Ethan a story to implicate the IMF director as the mole. However, Hunt is already connected the pieces, knowing that his mentor was the one who set him up and killed off the team. Yet as the exchange with Max on the TGV train goes down, both men have wild cards still to play upon one another, and the tables are turned in an explosive ride in order for Ethan Hunt's mission to be accomplished. So May 22nd, 1996 saw the theatrical debut of Mission Impossible, which was the very first film to be released in over 3,000 theaters, and also grossed a little bit more than Terminator 2's Wednesday opening record at $11.7 million, with $11.8 million, ahead of his $457 million worldwide gross against an $80 million budget, making a massive success for Paramount Pictures, who've really been trying for a couple of years to actually get the actual television series up on the big screen. And the series originally ran from 1968 up to 1973. Then, about the time of the writer's strike in 1988, they kind of brought it back for about 2 seasons up until 1990. And it was only Peter Graves as Jim Phelps kind of returning for that series and being the one regular cast member to come back, with a few other ones popping up as guest stars here and there. But it was really something they could really see a potential to getting up on a big screen with a nice solid budget, all these different things. And so things kind of got cored here and there. They really weren't getting a great traction of it until Tom Cruise, along with his agent at the time, Paul Wagner, formed their own production company together and really kind of set up a shop at Paramount. And Cruise was like, man, they've got Mission Impossible. I love that show. He grew up, watched the whole thing, and he was very excited about the entire prospect. And he originally was kind of working with Sidney Pollack, who'd done The Firm with. But things weren't really kind of going anywhere. The story wasn't great. It was kind of set in the Midwest. It was not involved with a lot of great, exciting things that really could get a great handle on. So it was kind of this chance to kind of, when Tom Cruise had one of his regular meetings and whatnot with Steven Spielberg, sit down, have a dinner, watch some movies together. that he met Brian De Palma. And then he went home and was like, man, I'm going to watch all these films that he made. I'm going to watch his entire filmography. It's like, once he got done with his marathon, it was like, this guy, he's the guy. He's the guy who's going to bring the qualities, the intrigue, the atmosphere, everything he wants for Mission Impossible to really get up on that sort of paranoia thriller type of thing. Because it's an interesting type of thing. Like, De Palma was not like a big budget action director to a certain degree. He wasn't a John McTiernan. He wasn't that type of ilk at some point and whatnot, but he had gotten some good hits. He'd gotten stuff like Scarface, he got Body Double, he got Blowout, Untouchables, all these different things. Carlito's Way had just come out with Al Pacino after Pacino just got a little bit of a resurgence here and there. So there's really good things he got going on in his career that are really remarkable films, really notable type of stuff, and really knew his craft so well. And that was the main thing that I think probably hit Cruise. Like, this guy knows noir, he knows thrillers, he knows how to do that mystery angle, he's got fantastic visual style to him. All these things can really strike you so much of what he could do on film and deal with this type of subject matter that you really want to get into. And it was the fact that after he only worked on Carlito's Way with David Koepp, screenwriter, who had also done Jurassic Park, this is the guy that De Palma calls up, is like, I want to work with this guy. He's got great ideas. He's got to handle exactly the type of stuff I want to work on. So they kind of developed the entire thing up to the point where they actually got greenlit on the entire film with a little bit of a caveat. Where, okay, we love the script. We're going to greenlight it. But you got to get rid of David Koepp. We're going to bring in Robert Towne. Amazing screenwriter in his own regard. Wrote Chinatown, wrote a bunch of different things. Celebrated screenwriter in his own regard, and Cruise brought in Robert Towne because he just worked on him on a couple films, Days of Thunder and The Firm, and really was kind of locked into kind of like, okay, I want to tap this guy because I know his work's very, very good. And so he was very celebrated, all that type of stuff. So it was kind of that weird type of thing. It was like, man, De Palma was so buddy-buddy with David Koepp. It's like straight great friends in that regard. And he's got to call him up and tell him, yeah, we got the thing greenlit, but now I got to let you go. And apparently the entire thing with Robert Towne, that he pretty much went back and rewrote the entire script. He only really needed to do, it was like touch-ups, kind of beef up some characterizations, some dialogue punch-ups here and there, not really do a full rewrite, just do some things that just strengthen certain aspects of the entire script. And he just went back and just redid everything from scratch in that regard, and that was not winning De Palma over because he really, really liked the script, because De Palma really kind of worked on himself, fashioning the different kind of big set pieces of the entire film and trying to find a place with the screenwriters to have them fit into the narrative. So an interesting way to kind of going with it, kind of like visualizing, yeah, we're going to have this, this, and this, and they're very exciting or intriguing, kind of nice type of twisting narratives in certain points, and just kind of find the threads that weave everything together in that regard. So it was kind of interesting. They had Towne on the whole thing, and then at a certain point, it's like, I don't like this script, I don't like what he's doing the whole thing, so they were convinced Paramount to kind of bring Koepp back on with a nice little added bonus of money in that regard. And the fact that Koepp and Towne were actually writing in two different hotel rooms at the exact same time. And so it's kind of a thing where there's mostly is David Koepp's stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of like, okay, we took some really good pieces of dialogue, certain characterizations, certain beats and whatnot that Towne really came up with to kind of follow along with what the story was that we were trying to make here. And so it's kind of a really kind of interesting, weird experience. And they also had celebrated screenwriter Steven Zaillian actually going in and consulting on various things with Koepp and various other things here and there. So a lot of people, a little too many people cooking in the kitchen in that regard. It could get to a certain point. It was like, there's way too many things going on here. You got Cruise with his own things. De Palma wants to get off to a certain degree with Koepp. Then Towne's over here. And they got this another guy coming in, Zaillian. So it could be a point where like things get a little too jammed up and muddied in a certain way, where when they got into pre-production, they didn't have a finished script yet. And so they were kind of building sets and kind of planning things out, the logistics, some places here and there. And things weren't entirely padded down on what they were doing exactly with the plotting, with the narrative, various other things. That basic skeleton idea, but the things weren't completely concrete as they're going into pre-production, the whole thing. But one thing Brian De Palma brought to the entire film is the fact that he wanted to have this international flavor. He wanted to move away from what they had in that previous script in the Midwest. It's not very exciting. He wants to go global on this entire thing. So let's go to Prague, because it's just a few years out of communism. It's a little more democratized there, and no Hollywood features shot there before. So we can make use of all this unique architecture and the look of the entire city. It was wonderful. Wonderful type of stuff that we set up in Pinewood in England, do all the shoots there on the sets and stages and stuff like that. Just add that entire thing into the whole thing. Just make it a wider scope of the entire thing instead of basing it somewhere domestically, it'd be really kind of interesting. Add so much different flavor to the entire film. Different look, different style, all these different things to just have all these qualities weave in the entire film between all the cinematography, all the different things that De Palma really wants to do visually. Add that stuff in there. Just have a great design to the entire film as well. Just like everything comes off very well from Norman Reynolds' design work. He's a fantastic guy. Worked all the way back on the Star Wars original trilogy and worked on so many other fantastic things as well. Really just gives the entire thing that European flavor so much that distinguishes it from a lot of other action films that are coming out at the time. But there's so many things involved that just making this film happen. The fact they actually got the film in on budget and under schedule was a very particular type of thing, because sometimes you'll hear these things go way over budget, they go over schedule, things are kind of a mess, but they got things just right where the studio really likes it. And the film was originally scheduled to come out in November of '95, but after you got some really good test screenings, and Paramount saw real potential for the entire thing, because if you release it in November '95, it'd actually be competing with GoldenEye. That would be a really tough type of thing to go head to head with these two big kind of spy franchises. Nice to see that Paramount saw this could be a very big hit. Right, put some little extra muscle in the entire thing, just some reshoots, maybe some extra effects work, some things here and there, just to make it the very absolute best they could possibly make it, and put a big marketing campaign behind it, and release it just at Memorial Day weekend, where back then that's pretty much exactly where the summer season started. That's why you'd have the kind of Wednesday opening, have the longer weekend ahead of you. The only thing was, there was some rumors at the time of when things were going off towards the final marketing push and stuff like that, going on the press junk and stuff like that. Brian De Palma was absent from that type of stuff. It kind of stirred up some things, thinking that there was tension between him and Cruise, but it was really the fact that Brian De Palma was going through a divorce at the point in time, and really just didn't want things out in the press, want to be private about certain things, just didn't want to get out there and kind of exacerbate his situation in that regard. So he kind of stepped back from the entire thing and let Cruise and various other people take the forefront of the entire marketing campaign in that regard. So no kind of ill will between them. And it sounds like, for the most part, Brian De Palma had a really exciting time and a very enthusiastic time making this. If you go watch any interviews he's done, whether it's on the Light the Fuse podcast, stuff that was in his own De Palma documentary back in 2015, various other things, he sounds like he's very fond of the experience. And that was a lot of an experience, like a big experience going into the whole thing. There was a lot to do. Big undertaking, big budget, a lot of things to deal with, but it sounds like he had a very positive experience going through the production of the entire film. And De Palma teamed up once again with cinematographer Stephen H. Berman, who worked with on Body Double, The Untouchables, Casualties of War, Raising Cain, and Carlito's Way, and just shot The Shadow for Russell Mulcahy, which is also another very appealing film. And these two, there's so much on the right wavelength. The film looks fantastic, especially with the remastered version in 4K. Gorgeous film, just like the Prague sequence alone, just stunningly noir so much as when you get out and got these blue hazes going on, all that type of stuff. It's almost dreamlike, very surreal type of stuff, but it brings that atmosphere so much in the entire film that you need at this point in time, with the paranoia, the suspicion starting to creep in, where things are getting off to a certain degree, where everything's kind of falling off kilter, and you get some of those Dutch angles and stuff like that, just starting to show off the film being a little bit off its center, a little off its axis. Don't know exactly which way things are going. Don't know who to trust. I like all the different things they're doing visually, painting with light so much. I just love all these interior sets with the lighting, just getting these little shafts of light here and there in the foreground, the background, just giving so much depth and dimension to every single shot here. It creates so much mystery in the entire film, just gives out a certain mood to how everything's proceeding throughout the entire film, just like that signature De Palma style with all the split diopters, the little Dutch angles, the certain compositions these two kind of put into the art film, just heightens and enhances so much what you're doing with the narrative here. It's great how De Palma does that with the cinematographer to show you things without telling you things. I like so much the entire sequence there, which there's some complaints about the film at the time. It's like, oh, it felt too complicated, felt too hard to follow in certain places. And there is some points in time, like when you have the entire thing where Jim Phelps reveals back to Ethan Hunt that he's alive now in London, and you have the entire scene there between Ethan and Phelps, and they're communicating something to each other in some places, but you're getting the entire visualization of what's happening inside of Ethan's head, how he's putting the things together while he's telling Phelps a different story. It's very much duplicitous, so much how they're doing that, but they're showing the audience visual clues about what's going on between these two characters, how performances are very subtle, but not telling. What you're telling the audience is what you're showing them through that visualization of what's going through Ethan's head. I love that type of stuff. It's such brilliant filmmaking. It's very astute. It's very sharp type of stuff. You're making the audience pay such close attention to what you're doing. It's very intelligent. It's very much a thinking man's action thriller. Such the type of thing is like, you could have stuff that's big explosions, big gunfights. There's no gunfights in this film, basically. There's almost nothing like that. It's such a smart type of film that uses the suspense, the tension, all these different interpersonal things going on between different characters to really build up the edge of suspense and all the different things going on, the danger, the threats, all these different things. Very simple, clever type of things going on in the entire script, and the visualization of what's going on in the script between characters and what's going on inside the characters. It's not easy to show what a character is thinking so much on film. Hard to do things where you're not telling the audience what you're doing. It's very, very difficult to actually show them something and have the gears moving inside the head of the actor and all these different things. So it's a very, very much, not everyone could pull off that sequence the way De Palma does. It's very much a film that shows a lot of great qualities. It's not just stunts and spectacular type of things. It's very much a good, interesting plot used forth through the visualization from the cinematographer and what De Palma brings into that style of the entire film here. And one of the early ideas that they had for this film is the fact they're going to have the television series cast come as a team that gets killed off at the beginning of the film here, but they all said no. A lot of them had very abrasive reactions, a lot of things going on in the entire film. Peter Graves seeing that the fact they're turning Jim Phelps into the villain and then killing him off at the end of the film did not win him over. One of the cast members actually decided, no, I'll go ahead, I'll accept an invite to the premiere, and just walked out halfway through because he was very upset about the whole thing. Mark Landau eventually said kind of like that. What they did with the film was not what they did in the entire series. It was very much against the things that they felt that the series was all about. So it's very much abrasive type of things from everyone who was a cast member. Even the point where they kind of brought one of the regular TV series directors onto the film to be a consultant, but kind of like De Palma sat down and said, I'm not making this a series. I'm making a different type of thing altogether. It's not going to be something that you're going to be able to really involve yourself in the whole thing. So he kind of walked off, left the set, and said he was thankful that De Palma set him down, talked to him, very much respect on that thing, and just like didn't waste his time in that regard. So all the stuff from all the people involved with the series just had no good qualities going forward in relation to the movie series. So clean break, a lot of brand new characters, new actors, stuff like that. And I do like the fact they did the entire thing at the beginning of the film here. Because a little bit of stunt casting, because you got like Emilio Estevez there. Established star, Brad Pitt stuff, the 80s, Young Guns, Mighty Ducks films, stuff like that. Very solid, recognizable star. And you kill him off in the first like 10 minutes of the entire film here. Get him set up a little bit, then he's gone. Because you could feel like he could definitely be there the entire film, main cast member, stuff like that. And it goes uncredited in the entire film. And I think that's probably because Tom Cruise had an uncredited cameo in Young Guns for Emilio. Kind of a little thing there, a little relationship there, kind of like a nice little thing there. So I like that. And that kind of the same thing that Wes Craven does with Scream that same year. Drew Barrymore's at the beginning of the film. Big established star, recognizable, stuff like that. You're not expecting them to get killed off at the beginning of the film. Great type of stuff. So these certain ebbs and flows of ideas from artistic masters at the time really kind of throwing you off in certain degrees. And of course, I mean, Cruise got charisma in spades. Just like he's so much that burgeoning star. It's like he's so well established now. From Risky Business to Top Gun, Born on the 4th of July, Rain Man, A Few Good Men, Interview with the Vampire, which he was prepping as he was getting this thing moving forward. Just all these just fantastic things showing he's got so much star power, he's got so much presence on screen, so many different things he could actually offer. He's showing a lot of diversity getting up to this point in time, and having him just spark off with his own franchise here that's action-centric and various other things. Like, it shows a lot of things he could do on screen with a character like this, where he has this charm and savvy so much that kind of propels him through all these sort of awkward, sort of interesting, threatening situations. All the things he's getting up with Max, trying to just kind of stay on track enough the entire situation here, and use these nice, clever pieces of manipulation. I like the entire sequence after they've got the knock list, and they're dealing with Krieger, Jean Reno's character, and he's doing all the nice sleight of hand type of things. And it's so much of a fantastic allegory for the entire film how you're playing these little sleights of hands, using deception and subterfuge and different things. Like it's so much an espionage type of thing going on. The whole thing is so much a great visualization of that idea going forward. And that's something Tom Cruise worked on so much and brought back in Deck Reckoning Part 1. That little sleight of hand magic trick type of stuff is all very practical. There's no camera tricks. There's no nothing. It's all stuff he learned exactly for this entire performance here. And of course, I just love all the clever calculating ways he kind of goes about kind of untangling this web that's kind of closed in upon him right from the first scene with Kittredge. The entire thing was just like, everything's just like, you're just realizing like this has all been a setup. I've been pinned on it. And so he's slowly strategizing as everything's kind of pressuring down upon him. So he's got to kind of figure his way out of this. And I like how he adapts to the entire film, how he kind of figures these kind of interesting ways around certain obstacles while keeping kind of things at bay. Kind of keep everyone kind of a little bit at arm's length. He's not really letting anyone in exactly the deeper realities kind of coming upon him and stuff like that when he finds the stamp of the Drake Hotel on the entire Bible there. Is like realizing Phelps is the guy. He's the one behind all this type of stuff. All these different things. I like how it's like these subtle little things that shows the intelligence of the character here and the fact that Cruise can show a thinking man in the entire film. Just show that gears moving around his head, putting the little things together, assembling the plot together in his head there. I like so much that Cruise is so much of a really solid actor at this point in time, working with so many great directors. He's learned so much from so many people and he's so dedicated towards it. He definitely shows the quality of what he wants to do to lead this franchise and bring every single quality to the forefront that he could possibly get to wrap himself up in the story, the web of mysteries, the tension, the suspense, all these different things, and play towards that subterfuge so very well with everything that's going on with this character of Ethan Hunt. And bringing in Jon Voight to play the character of Jim Phelps here, at the time, it's like you wouldn't suspect Jon Voight as being the villain, because there's a lot later on when like he does stuff like Enemy of the State and some other things slightly after this that he's much more cast as the bad guy. This point in time really wasn't known for doing that type of stuff, so it's like having him as Jim Phelps, thinking like he's an altruistic type of guy and kind of have that turn. It's much more shocking to the audience in that regard, but he does a good job playing this sort of mentor role. He's got that great stately quality about him in some places here that it just feels like he has such a genuine sensibility about the character there that when you get these slight steps forward, like when you find out he's actually survived, he's had that sit down with Ethan there. He's not really giving anything away, but there's slight, subtle little things as you're going through, as you're kind of getting perception from Ethan, you can pick up slight little things about his performance that just kind of reads into it. Maybe not even something he's really doing that much, but the complexion of the character is kind of changing as the scene goes on, and he slightly leans into it. It's a slight, gradual turn in the performance because it's much more overt when you get up on the train there, and then he kind of reveals himself with a gun and stuff like that. Interesting, great type of stuff, how he portrays the character so very well. And just a few scenes here and there, but it works so very well to play that kind of turn as the film goes along here. And having Emmanuelle Béart as his wife, Claire, here, makes very, very intriguing sort of femme fatale character. It's not really suspected that much. You have a little stuff when, like, okay, Ethan's kind of startled and kind of figuring out what the hell's going on. How does she survive when they almost died? But as things go along, the partnership kind of comes together as a very mutual team-up type of thing. She's on board with it and stuff like that. This never comes up again. There's never paranoia. There's never suspicion. There's nothing else here and there, which makes her a very nice third act twist. But it's also sympathetic to the fact that you never really villainize her so much. The fact that there's still just a little bit of a disappointment there. It's like it's just a slight bit of a betrayal there. It's like he trusts her to a certain degree, but still didn't trust her enough because it was her husband. It's like you don't know quite how far things are going here. So it's like I like the fact you got that little play there, whatnot, with the masks and everything like that, and just kind of plays off in a very interesting type of way. Whereas like your own husband kind of killed you, and that's just sad. It's a nice little tinge of something to give a little bit of sympathy to the character that could have teetered either way as the film went along, as you look back on it in retrospect. But you've got Henry Czerny as Kittredge, who's just fantastic. Just like, he's this great psychological adversary. So much this perfect counterbalance to Ethan Hunt. Such a great quality there. The fact they have that sort of teeter-totter type of thing going on. There's a little bit of things weaving back and forth between these two characters that just has this razor-sharp edge to it. I love the fact that Kittredge is this character who is in the right of what he's doing, but he's led along the wrong path, playing the game that they have to play here. Because Phelps has let everything kind of pinned it on Ethan and stuff like that so he can get away scot-free. All these interesting things. So, I like the fact that Kittredge will play dirty. He's going to do the type of thing to apply the pressure and squeeze. They're going to implicate the family, the sort of drug trade or whatnot. They kind of lure Ethan Hunt out. He knows how to play that spy game. Secrets and subterfuge and little deceits here and there, stuff. They kind of play that sort of cutthroat chess game. I love the quality of his character so much. He kind of knows how to move the pieces around and all these interesting things. He's got such an amazing screen presence. The tenor of his voice is so impactful and so memorable so much. Everything he does on screen is just razor-sharp perfection every step of the way. The fact that there's a great aspect of Kittredge that he does respect his quarry and understands the skills that Hunt has. He gave them to him. We taught him. We trained him how to do this stuff. So he's very much a guy who kind of respects that type of stuff. And when he comes up to Max in the end of the film, there's like, that court's not kind of arrest you or whatnot. Like, we could probably make out another deal. It's all the intelligence game in that regard. It's like, we could kind of get you on board with something else. We're not going to bust you. You're an asset. All that type of stuff is like interesting stuff. To really kind of have that character so intelligent in the intelligence game. Great type of stuff from him. And of course, you got Jean Reno hot off of stuff like Leon the Professional and stuff like that, and Ving Rhames, fantastic as Luther. Just like, it's an interesting type of thing that Luther in the previous drafts of the screenplay was supposed to die on the train sequence, but Ving Rhames kind of said, well, why does the black guy always got to die? So we objected, and it's like, okay, now we have this fantastic character that's going on in every single sequel here, and he's a fantastic asset to the entire thing, because him and Cruz got chemistry like living hell. They're glorious together. I could not imagine this franchise without Luther Stickle being all over it. I love him so much. He's perfect. Bring him in this whole thing. And of course, Vanessa Redgrave as Max. Wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful. Of course, and she actually ends up being the mother of the White Widow, Vanessa Kirby's character later on in the franchise. So, nice pieces of interlinking continuity in that regard. But you move over to the musical score for the entire film, which was originally supposed to be done by Alan Silvestri, and he did complete about 20 minutes of music that was put into test screenings, but didn't test overly well. And the filmmakers just didn't feel like it hit quite the mark they were going for, and so they moved him out and brought in Danny Elfman, who is very much known for his Tim Burton collaborations in terms of Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, and stuff like that. And they really kind of moved him into a thing that just was completely out of his comfort zone so much. Like, you're so used to that sort of gothic stylings of his music, and that's not present here whatsoever. He very much eases into the entire thing as an action-driven cue score here with the Mission Impossible theme, the plot theme, all the different things composed by Lalo Schifrin, and moving them into the big theatrical space and just making it such a great score that has a very taut sense of tension in it and still drives the action so much in so many different places. Like, it fits in so very well. It's so chameleon of them to kind of go off in a different sort of genre in that regard and not kind of lay on all the stuff you've been working with the past several years. So it's very much a great score in that regard. I think it's gotten an expanded version done over the years. I think he did a really fantastic job to get the theatrical franchise up on a very good foot on this entire thing. But the point in the entire film, they actually have to pull all that sound out, all the music out, all the different things in that regard, is the Langley break-in sequence, which is a fantastically well-done sequence. Because De Palma's kind of like this entire thing of, man, we got all these digital sound systems on. Everyone's trying to pump in so much sound, so many different channels, all that type of stuff. Just really make it a hot mix in that regard. Forget how good silence can be, how effective that can be towards the right sequence in a film. And that's so much on display here. Just the fact that you're in this black box room, and too many decibels will set off the alarm system, so they gotta work so much on this careful sensibility with Jean Reno up there kind of working the cables with the suspension system, and Tom Cruise has to do this almost acrobatic act in the entire thing to kind of balance out and make sure nothing goes wrong in the whole thing. And the great thing is they have the guy who's supposed to be in the box and everything like that, and they kind of drug and whatnot. He keeps getting incontinent, and he's going to the bathroom back and forth. It breaks up the tension a little bit. It alleviates it with a little humor in that regard. They kind of have that entire thing going back and forth. They kind of let the audience breathe a little bit towards a little bit of a chuckle there, and they go right back into the tension. It's really, really well constructed in that regard. De Palma just fantastic and just constructing these wonderful, suspenseful sequences all over the place. And of course, all the brilliant mask reveals in the entire film were done by Oscar-winning special effects makeup artist Rob Bottin, who come up through films like The Howling, The Thing, inner space RoboCop and winning for his work on Total Recall. All that stuff is done so fantastically well, and we got the entire train sequence, which was all the visual effects done by Industrial Light and Magic. It's a really well constructed sequence. And like, there was kind of a debate between like De Palma and Robert Towne. The whole thing is like, the Towne wanted to have this entire elaborate sort of like mask pulling off sequence in the boxcars, stuff like that. And De Palma was like pushing forward this big action sequence type of thing, because really won the whole thing. And really was Tom Cruise kind of doing kind of a mirroring of that whole thing, kind of going for De Palma's thing, but still keeping a little bit of that sort of mask intrigue type of thing going on the whole thing. So really nice mirroring of ideas there. But with the visual effects, they're good for 96 to a certain degree, but you can kind of tell a little bit in retrospect, kind of looking at it, it's like, some things are not quite as good as we're kind of used to seeing now. Because like you have the kind of helicopter going around, and there's kind of digital lens flares kind of flying off, just like it's a little not quite as well integrated in certain ways possible that you can probably see in retrospect. But so a lot of the films like 95, 96, 97 are kind of doing visual effects are not terribly as good as this. So there's a lot of things kind of falling off further off the spectrum in that regard. This one's a little bit kind of a nice solid piece of work for ILM in that regard. In the same year you had Independence Day kind of blowing everyone away with these spectacular visual effects that still hold up very well today. This one kind of maybe not quite as good as possible, but it still is a very solid piece of work for 1996 in the digital effects realm, where they had a lot of things going on trying to get the actual reality of this kind of just shooting down train or whatnot to get the wind blowing on it, because Cruise really wanted to have that visual. He wanted to make sure it looked as real as possible, so they tried jet turbine engines, they tried industrial fans, and apparently there was like this skydiving simulator fan they eventually found that got the right effect for it. So it's very much the type of thing like they're pushing forward to get things look as good as they possibly could. And so there's so great things in that sequence where the entire thing the copter just blows up and Cruise goes flying towards the screen, just like amazing complicated type of stuff in that regard. So there's miniature work in there, there's the green screen stuff, there's the live action stunt work, and it's all very, very good. The sequence is fantastic. Great stuff in so many regards. And I really like the energies Mission Impossible really does have. It starts out with that kind of panic sensibility in the whole thing when everything goes awry. But they kind of move into this paranoid thriller stuff, don't know who to trust. And it kind of this dangerous vibe where you kind of have to go between the lines and everything. You gotta get set up with Max and kind of go against the IMF and the CIA to kind of find out who Job is. Get the guy who's actually set everyone up in this whole thing to kind of clear his name and stuff like that. It's really interesting type of stuff. I think the screenplay for the whole thing, as you get the stuff from David Koepp, a little bit of Robert Towne stuff, that married all the right elements together to get a really solid, intriguing story going in the whole thing. I think De Palma style I think it just comes together with a very, very good film. Just like not a lot of the other films of the franchise kind of tap into that paranoid sensibility as much. It's typically just more like a team focus type of thing, and things don't quite go that direction so much, where like there's Ethan Hunt and he's kind of weaving his way between all these different people. So usually a couple of people he can trust going forward from like Mission Impossible 3 up to everything else. It's always like a core team you can really kind of rely on, stuff like that, and maybe kind of work through things in some ways, but never anything quite this way where he's kind of got all these different things, not knowing exactly who to trust, kind of playing Max to a certain degree and kind of have to deal with Krieger, who's a little bit of a hothead, a little bit of a wild card element. So I like the entire thing, that the fact that the paranoid angle in the entire film works so very well. It's a very good type of thing that I think I'd like to see more of that executed as well as this film did. And I just think the entire film comes off extremely well, just like it's got great thrill elements, very well-defined characters, very iconic sequences for its own sake. The fact that the first film, the franchise, had the Langley sequence, which has just been completely emblazoned across pop culture in the entire way, and the entire train sequence just really hits off a great climax in the entire film. I think it all comes together very well. I love the cast. I love everything that's going on. The whole thing, again, the Elfman score really is just a fantastic piece of work. But still, I love the entire film. I think it's fantastic. When I was doing a rewatch of the entire franchise going up to Dead Reckoning Part 1, it was kind of the first time I really sat down and really watched this one. It's like, man, this thing's really good. It's really, really good. I just really kind of got charged up for it. Like, this thing's excellent. It's an excellent piece of work. I just would like to hear what you guys feel about it as well. And I've covered Mission Impossible 3 and Ghost Protocol before, so if you want to go check out those videos, they'll be available in playlists and stuff like that at the end of the entire video here. But really like to hear what you guys think about the original Mission Impossible and how it stacks up to the subsequent films in the franchise. Mission Impossible 2, not very good. It's not very good. It's very boring for the first hour before you get to any action. By that point, I really didn't care anymore, so I didn't finish watching that one. For everything else, very, very good work, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about the whole thing. Of course, like, subscribes, comments, sharing, super thanks feature to contribute anything to the channel directly, and also the Patreon to get early access to everything every single month. And so guys, thanks so much for watching and enjoying everything I have here, so thanks much, take care. Bye-bye.